So you wanted it. These are the exact steps I use every day to make manga. Blender, Photoshop, Clip Studio, Evil Computer Magic. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It's all in there. And I'm Mr. Plutoons, the manga creator. Some might call me an art hacker, a space pirate. That one's a fun one. I'm the art nerd's worst enemy. Completely out of control. Somebody should stop me. No, don't do it. Stop that man. No, too late. So you may have seen my TikToks or my Instagram reels, but they're too short. They're too fast. They're too annoying, right? So here we are, a YouTube channel. This is a step-by-step video of how I like to use tools, hack art, and make manga. All right, this is the ultimate manga hack, step by step. So it begins with my default Blender file. Well, actually, step one is coming up with an idea, just a concept sketch or just something to base my scene off of. You can see in the left-hand corner, I'm using PureRef, and I've got a little doodle I did in Krita of a character sitting at a bus stop. It's very simple. And then we're already at step two, and that's modeling the scene. For what I do, using my 3D as a base, and then turning that into backgrounds for my manga, I don't need to know everything about Blender. I just need very basic preschool level stuff. It's really simple. I know my hotkeys, and I have the basic understanding of the functions, and that's all I need to go pretty far. I try not to spend too much time focusing primarily on silhouettes of things, just the overall shape of the objects. I also don't care about proper geometry or model efficiency because I'm not making a game over here. I just care about shape information and filling my scene with a solid foundation to build off of. And you see that very basic ultra low poly model. I call it the ugly lizard person. I just use that as reference to scale and place the objects in the scene. It's great to have a human-sized figure to make sure everything is in proportion to how it should be in real life. That's the goal here. That's why we're using 3D to kind of cheat perspective and get things to feel like they're actually real in a way, at least believable. So by now you might be thinking I'm skipping over a lot, but I just don't believe the world needs a basic modeling tutorial for Blender. There's hundreds out there, great ones, made by people that are much more qualified to teach and explain this program in better detail than I do. But I can definitely tell you exactly the tutorial that I use to learn this tool. So basically everything that I know and the way I use the program, I learned from Jama Juryabev. And he's just a world-class concept artist who works in film and television. He's done The Mandalorian, Jurassic World, Guardians of the Galaxy. He's got a top-level pedigree. And the way he explains things and the way he thinks when he's using tools is invaluable to someone like me. He's got a Gumroad page where you can get the tutorials that I use to learn this program. Intro to Blender 2.8 and the Quick Environment Design for Blender. Both are only $20. Guarantee I'll get a comment $20, but there's all this free info online. Yeah, that's not for you then. I'm just telling you how I learned. And if you ask your mommy or go mow some lawns or maybe skip a dinner at Cheesecake Factory, you'll be able to spend $20 on getting better at art. Or just use the free shit. I don't care. So we're on step 3. I switched to the shader preview in the viewport. And this is the most complex part of the video, but it's super simple when you get familiar with this thing called shader editor and material nodes. Think of this part like adding adjustment filters that plug into your model to add color and bring it to life. I actually use photographic image textures to add color to my models. I don't always worry about what the image is as long as it creates interesting texture information that I can work on top of trying to make visual interest and noise, basically. So I'll just go over the shader editor and my node tree. When you're adding nodes, you just hit Shift A and you can search each specific node. But starting on the left, I got the texture coordinate, and that plugs into the mapping node, which plugs into the texture node, or the image texture, excuse me. And that image texture holds the photo reference that I have somewhere on my computer, and that plugs directly into the base color of the principal BSDF shader, which is the main shader for the entire object. Then if you want to make it real crunchy, I just duplicate the image texture and I plug that into a normal map and a bump map. But the normal map also goes into the bump map, and they combine into this crunchy trifecta that goes into the principal BSDF. And using that mapping node I have attached to the image texture, I can slide the adjustments and change the size, rotation, and placement of the texture on my objects. It's very useful. But you can see I'm putting down a ground texture and I'm just using a random photo I took to create visual interest and information. It doesn't have to be exact because in the end of the day, we're turning this black and white and we're going to draw on top of it. This is just a base to create information that's interesting enough to make an image out of. And that's another reason I enjoy this process, because it allows me to think outside the box and use the tools in an abstract way to create things that I'm trying to create. I don't have to be exact or precise. I just have fun. That's it. It's all about having fun. If you don't have fun with this, then do something else. I don't know, but it's fun for me. A really cool thing you can do in Blender is add transparent PNGs to your images. In like movies and game layouts, there's these flat image cards that look like 3D, but they're not. In this case, they don't really match with the scene, but that doesn't matter because it's going to be black and white eventually anyway, and it's more of like a placeholder for when I draw later. So we made it to step 4, where I take care of the render passes. Essentially, I've used the viewport as a camera. I light the scene. I've got a sunlight here. It's going to be backlit because I wanted a really strong silhouette shape read. You might notice that I am leaving in my ugly lizard person. He's meant to be a stand-in, but I thought it could be kind of funny to have him in the scene. And I wanted to see what would happen if I put my manga filters on him, and if there's a way for me to incorporate him into the scene and actually make it work. It's kind of an experiment. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. So it's a really simple part. I don't do any actual rendering. I just do screenshots of the different render passes. So we're in the render preview. I've got a screenshot. I go to the shader preview. I get a screenshot of that. And then I go to that original modeling preview and I switch it to flat and I get a screenshot of that. And immediately we're in step 5 in Photoshop, where I drop all my screenshots in, I make sure they're aligned, and I just cut them out and mask them to make sure they're all, I don't want all that dumb information that I screenshotted, so just got the main scene. Here's my main trick. I take that flat silhouette, I throw a black background behind it, and I convert that silhouette to threshold. And I do selective color, I select only the white, and I mask the lined up layers behind it. And now we got transparent backgrounds on the renders, which my manga filters work best on transparent backgrounds. Now you know. And I'm just gonna crop it here so you don't waste space. Go to filter, sharpen, unsharpen mask. I've got settings there. And then you go to image adjustments threshold. You just crank the slider to whatever fits your taste. It doesn't actually matter. I like to experiment. That's why I do the 2 render passes to see which one I like. And sometimes I combine them both. In this case, I didn't. Mess around with all the settings. I do get a lot of messages talking about how do I make it less crunchy. And I'm afraid that crunchy is the name of the game. At the end of the day, people aren't going to be like up as close to the image as you are. So you got to remember that it doesn't have to be picture perfect, high fidelity, and you can draw on top of it to make it look better. Long story short, zoom out. You probably just noticed I went and grabbed those grass PNGs I used in the Blender file. I dropped them back into the image, threw those same filters on, and now I'm just decorating my scene with grass everywhere. Grass. Apart from creating more noise, I'm also trying to direct the composition to the subject, which will be the character I'm about to draw in the next step. Speaking of the next step, step 6. It's the final step. I hop into Clip Studio, and this is where I actually go and I draw everything I need to draw. I clean up the ugly 3D, I add more details, I draw my characters, and finally, to finish it off, I throw tones on everything to bring it together, make it a final manga panel before dumping it into a manga panel. And I love Clip Studio. If you've never tried it or used it, it's literally made for manga. Before it was called Clip Studio, it was called Manga Studio. And the tools are incredible. The brushes that come with the program that are free, they're also incredible. It feels really great to draw with. And I just enjoy using the software in general. It's a lot of fun. So right now I've converted my lines to blue line, which is another great feature. You could add filters to your layers, and I'm just mapping out places I'd like to adjust or fix, and I'm just drawing in my little character. And after this, I'm just gonna draw directly on top of everything, cleaning it up with black ink. And here's that ugly lizard person that I was attempting to incorporate into the image. I personally really love the low poly, low fidelity PS1 N64 look. I've always wanted to find a way to incorporate that nostalgic vibe that I have, because I mean, I'm old and I grew up with these things. I want to incorporate that video game look from my childhood into my work in some way. I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, perhaps I could have characters like this in my manga just wandering about in the background, or I could just place the ugly lizard person hidden in various shots. I don't know. Maybe not this obvious, but I'm just drawing over my blue line, just kind of carving out elements I don't like and carving in new lines to define the shapes that I've already placed. At this point, it's just drawing to the finish line. Just keep drawing and making it look cool. Obviously, I haven't done the character yet, but I could speed this up and play music. I don't know. So there's one last thing we got to do, and that's make a tone layer. Just make a new layer, and it can be any value, and you just click one button in Clip Studio and it converts it to tone. There's many ways to use tone. I'm using it to create a mood / a lighting scenario that just brings the image together and makes it feel emotional, sorta. And look, I can use a mask just like I do in Photoshop to carve out some of this tone to make the forms pop out a little more, or at least make the focal point pop out. This is the moment I decided that the ugly lizard person is just not going to work. This is the bare bones of what I do in every image I make. I go to Blender, make a 3D model set. I screenshot that. I hop into Photoshop. I throw those filters on, and I finish everything up here in Clip Studio. That's it. That's all I do. Now, go hack the planet or whatever. Do what you want. I don't care. But subscribe. Okay, see you later. Bye.